Ukrainian FP-2 strike drones hit fuel depot in Crimea, ammo warehouse in Donetsk. January 11, 2026. I'm Alex. Join me with Arya in the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, we're going to cover a set of highly coordinated strikes that, well, they really mark a new chapter in this war of logistics.
They absolutely do. These simultaneous deep strikes carried out overnight on January 8th and 9th they're more than just tactical successes. They represent a systemic effort by Ukraine to target Russia's ability to wage war, focusing specifically on rear-area logistics.
Okay, so our mission today is to analyze what this tells us about Ukraine's strategy of attrition.
Exactly. And, crucially, to dissect the specialized homegrown technology, the FP-2 drone that made all of this possible.
Right. This isn't just about a few explosions. It's about proving a capability. You have two very distant, very strategic targets hit almost at the same time. That signals a really high level of coordination and precision. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
And what stands out immediately is that focus on systemic disruption. It was a classic dual-pronged attack. One branch hit fuel and mobility hundreds of kilometers away.
And the other?
The other hit firepower and sustainment right near active offensive lines. It really highlights Russia's vulnerability deep behind its supposed lines of control.
Okay, let's unpack this with a tactical damage assessment. Let's start with Crimea. Where exactly did these drones land, and what was the immediate damage they were trying to inflict?
The primary focus was fuel supply. So the strike drones targeted two vital locations in occupied Crimea: oil depots in the village of Donetsk and another facility near the city of Simferopol.
And these attacks, they're designed to what, just introduce friction into the whole supply network?
That's the idea, and why Donetsk specifically. The strikes were precision aimed at the fuel loading rack. They actually hit rolling stock that was in the process of transferring fuel and lubricants.
Wow. So it's not just the depot, it's the process of distribution itself.
Exactly. It's incredibly disruptive. Reports from the local monitoring channel Kyiv or Crimean Wind confirmed thick black smoke visible from a distance. We also know one of the depots belonged to A10.
That's Crimea's largest gas station network, right?
It is. So by hitting this distribution point, you worsen Russia's fuel supply problems across the entire peninsula. For ground forces, for aviation, for everything.
So you're hitting their mobility, making it harder for trucks to roll, for aircraft to fly. But at the same time, they reach deep into Donetsk to hit a major ammunition dump. Tell us about that Herny target.
And that's the strategic contrast, isn't it? Near the settlement of Herny, Special Operations Forces units struck a massive ammunition and material warehouse. And this target wasn't chosen for its size.
It was chosen for its specific connection to a unit. We see that happen a lot.
We do. This one was a critical supply point for Russia's 51st Combined Arms Army. The 51st CA, just for context, is a formation that was reconstituted from the old PNR 1st Army Corps.
And they're heavily involved in the current program, particularly around Pokrovsk.
Very heavily involved, so this strike becomes much more impactful. You're not just destroying material, you're degrading a specific unit that is actively engaged in offensive operations.
Precisely. You're talking about degrading their material integrity. Ammunition, yes, but also repair parts, medical supplies.
Everything they need to sustain combat. By hitting the 51st CAA's reserves, Ukraine is weakening their ability to build up the mass they need for sustained pushes in a high-intensity sector like Boring. It's a really effective campaign of deprivation.
The targeting clarity here is just immense. Hit the ground forces' strategic mobility in the rear with the Crimea fuel strike, and then hit a key offensive formation's immediate firepower with the Donetsk ammo strike. But, this raises the question of the platform. Why use the FP-2 drone for these simultaneous strikes on targets up to 200 kilometers away? This is where the engineering gets fascinating.
It really does. The common thread here was the FP-2 strike drone, produced by the Ukrainian defense company Firepoint. And when we talk about the FP-2, we are talking about a very specific mission profile, the middle strike drone.
What defines that category? Is it just the range?
Range is a big factor, but the real defining feature is the trade-off. The FP-2 is designed for ranges up to 200 kilometers.
Okay.
So it sacrifices the extreme range of its sibling, the FP-1, which can fly, 1,400 to 1,600 kilometers.
And it sacrifices that range in favor of what?
Destructive payload. It carries a warhead of roughly 105 to 120 kilograms. That is a massive punch compared to your typical recon drone or even many longer-range attack drones.
And that much larger warhead is absolutely key for targets like a reinforced oil depot or a big concrete warehouse. You need that power to guarantee a secondary explosion or a structural failure.
Absolutely. It is optimized for hitting hardened infrastructure right behind the front line.
Mm.
And it really embodies a pragmatic design philosophy. You remember that great analogy for the FP-1?
The Kalashnikov rifle of drones.
Right. Simple, reliable, produced widely to get the job done. The FP-2 just takes that same philosophy and adds a much heavier caliber.
And that whole concept, pragmatism, mass production, focusing on what works in the field, that seems to be central to the rapid growth of the Ukrainian Defense Industrial Base, the DIB. How does the FP-2 fit into Firepoint's bigger picture?
Firepoint isn't just a single drone shop. They're building a whole scalable ecosystem. They have the long-range FP-1, the heavy middle-strike FP-2, and maybe most importantly, they're openly developing a truly ambitious long-range cruise missile.
That's the FP-5, the Flamingo.
The Flamingo, the one aiming for a 3,000-kilometer range and a nearly 500-kilogram warhead.
So the success of a platform like the FP-2 in high-profile operations.
Which, I should add, has been repeatedly mentioned by the SSU and the SOF.
Right, so that success gives immense credibility to the company's entire rapidly expanding portfolio.
It does. It proves they can deliver.
Okay, but when a DIB expands this quickly, sometimes growth outpaces governance and transparency. We have to address the controversy surrounding Firepoint. How does that political risk factor into all of this?
It's a necessary discussion for sure. The rapid scaling of any major defense contractor is going to have growing pains, and Firepoint has faced some significant reputational challenges. These stem from allegations related to a businessman, Timer which came to light through NBU investigations.
The National Anti-Corruption Bureau, and we know this controversy was serious enough that Western partners, I think Denmark was one, requested formal explanations.
It was. And it really speaks to the tension you see in wartime mobilization. The company's management has been actively trying to distance itself from those issues, but the key strategic takeaway for us as analysts is this. Despite any corporate controversy, the operational result is undeniable.
Drones work?
The drones work, they're highly effective, and they're being made at a scale that is delivering systemic disruption to Russian forces. Right now, the sheer utility is outweighing the political noise.
Okay, that deepens the strategic threat here. So let's connect this to the bigger strategic context.
Yeah.
Why are these logistics strikes so vital right now, beyond just the tactical losses?
They're critical because they directly hit the sustainability of the Russian war effort. The depots in Crimea support ground operations, Russian aviation, but it's more than just military supply. It ties directly into how Russia is funding this war.
And this is where we get into international sanctions evasion, right?
Absolutely. The fuel in those depots is often generated from revenue Russia earns by cheating. They rely heavily on a shadow fleet of sanctioned oil tankers engaging in illicit transfers to keep their war economy flowing.
So they're using this revenue, maybe from sanctioned Venezuelan or Iranian oil, to pay for the war machine.
That's the cycle. And when you ask how they do it, it's a real shell game. They use sophisticated maneuvers like registry hopping. We see it in the sources. The tanker Veronica suddenly changes its name to Galileo and reflags to Russia just to evade U.S. scrutiny.
So they just changed the name of the ship.
Change the name, change the flag. We saw it with the Bella 1, too, which became the Marinera under Russian ownership to bypass U.S. sanctions. These maneuvers are essential for them to generate revenue, which means targeting the storage depots holding that illicit fuel hits Russia both militarily and financially.
Making it a priority target for the FP-2's heavy payload. It's a very complex attrition campaign. But we have to put this in context, because this tactical success for Ukraine came on a night when Russia launched one of its own most sophisticated strategic strikes.
That night, January 8th and 9th, was incredibly convenient. While Ukraine was hitting deep logistics, Russia launched a massive combined barrage targeting Ukrainian infrastructure. It was a demonstration of his own escalation capabilities.
We're talking over 242 drone warheads, plus 36 missiles, Iskander-M, and the use of a new, highly dangerous weapon.
And that's the key distinction. Beyond the sheer volume of the attack, which caused massive power outages in places like Kyiv Oblast, the most critical development was the deployment of the Oreshnik.
The Oreshnik
Exactly. And the target location raises a very important question about Russian intent. They hit Lviv Oblast, the far western region.
Right. Geolocated footage suggested the target was a high-value defense industrial enterprise, maybe the Lviv State Aircraft Repair Plant. And the mayor of Lviv highlighted that this was the first time a Russian ballistic missile had ever struck Lviv Oblast,
This wasn't just a physical attack, it was a political statement.
hitting the region that is the major logistical gateway for Western military aid. So what is that geographical jump hitting Lviv with that kind of hardware signal about Moscow's strategic objective?
Well, if we connect this to the broader picture, the Kremlin's goal here is likely a sophisticated form of what strategists call reflexive control.
Okay, for listeners who aren't familiar with that term, can you break down reflexive control in this context?
Certainly, reflexive control is it's a deliberate psychological campaign. It's designed to manipulate your opponent's decision-making by creating a perception of threat or vulnerability.
I see.
By targeting the westernmost region, a place seen as safer, a place crucial for Western support with the Oreshnik, Moscow is sending an unequivocal message to European and U.S. partners
And that message is,
that nowhere is truly safe and that continued support comes with an elevated risk. It aims to deter them from providing further security guarantees.
so you have these two forces at play. Ukraine is leveraging domestically produced, highly effective mid-range systems like the FP-2 to achieve systemic attrition and undermine the financial backbone of the war.
While at the same time, Russia responds with tactical escalation designed to intimidate Ukraine's Western partners and disrupt their DIB at the deepest possible level.
It creates a fascinating and, frankly, dangerous dynamic.
It does. Ukraine's innovation is winning tactical battles in the rear, but Russia is escalating the strategic risk with systems like the Reshaping. The reality right now is that platforms like the FP-2 are devastatingly effective at exploiting those logistical weaknesses that keep the Russian military going.
And that efficiency brings us back to the next technological horizon we should be watching. We've established the FP-2 as a heavy hitter for the frontline rear, maxing out at 200 kilometers. So what happens to the balance of power if Firepoint manages to rapidly ramp up production and deployment of its genuinely strategic long-range systems, like that 3,000-kilometer range 55 Flamingo missile?
That changes the calculus entirely. If Ukraine can reliably threaten strategic targets deep inside Russia, not just the border regions, it forces Moscow to dedicate huge resources to defending its own deep strategic infrastructure. It would mean pulling their defense systems, pulling personnel away from the front line.
We would move the whole idea of systemic disruption from a tactical threat to a strategic threat.
That is the question. It's the question that defines the next phase of this technological race.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Summer, subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.